Xenia.
Well, did you watch the Cowboys yesterday?
I did not. I did not.
Unbelievable game.
Really?
Yes. The first one they've won in 5 games, I guess. And the back and forth. You know, I told Debbie yesterday, I said, you can forget an NFL game, about 60 to 70% of them. Just turn it on when there's about 3 minutes to go, and you'll see the best part. And the last 2 minutes, 60% of games are won or lost.
Yeah.
In the NFL.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I saw a meme the other day that said it was a guy getting arrested. Y'all may have saw it. It says it was at the Cowboys game. He was being arrested, and it said now it's getting so bad they're having to hold people there.
I know it. Yeah, I saw that same thing. They were arresting him, making him stay. He was trying to walk out.
They're arresting him, making them stay to watch the rest of the game.
So. Oh, that's so funny.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Well, what are you reading right now? Give us the 6 books you're reading right now.
Oh gosh, I'm reading the Henry VIII book.
Yeah.
What I told you about. I'm reading so Henry VIII.
And thanks for. Well, I need to thank Dawn. I left her.
Yeah, she said she got it.
Okay,
she assumed
good.
that's what it was.
Good, yeah.
But I'm reading that, and I'm reading a couple of philosophy books. I don't know why, but I am. I'm reading. One of them I had to read for my class, philosophy, Western philosophy. So I'm in the middle of that. That my brain's about to explode on that stuff. I'm reading a Karl Marx because I'm having to write papers.
You're having to read. Are you reading Bertrand Russell in Western?
No, we didn't read him.
There?
He's in some of the books that I've read. His name comes across, and so I've read a little bit about him.
Atheist.
Oh yeah. But I'm reading a book on Karl Marx. I'm reading a book called Toxic Empathy. Yeah. Do you like her? Yeah, she does a podcast. Allie Beth Stuckey.
I didn't know she had that book out.
She just came out. It is.
Oh, is that right?
It's really good. From what I'm only in chapter 2. It's really good. I mean, she's just laying it out. I mean, she's laying out the truth. Like the first chapter's on abortion, the second chapter's on transgender. So it's really good. And she's just her point is that empathy. We want to have empathy, but the empathy that the world is pushing at us is toxic.
Yeah.
You got to love these people. You got to embrace them. You got to do all this. So that's kind of what the point of her book is, at least so far. So.
I finished in like 2 days this a book. I'll just say that. And then I'm reading also Henry V. I got to the middle of Henry V, and I got these other books in, and I started reading them. And I'm reading one. It's called the Something of Iniquity, by Thomas Helwys.
Okay.
Written in the late 1500s, and it's an odd title for a book on ecclesiology. But I'm reading that, and I'm reading The War on Our Past, which is a little deeper than I thought it would be, and it's really quite fascinating.
Yeah, man. There's so many good books out there.
How our day has reached back to the past and has essentially canceled all the past. And I read an article today in the UK Daily Mail on how they had gone back. There's some university over there, they'd gone back to the original founder, and it somehow linked him to slavery. He was like the governor of Jamaica, something like that. Linked him to slavery, and now they want to tear down the statue, burn the pictures, change the name, do all this kind of stuff. And his descendant is over a part of that. And of course, they're wanting to fire him. That whole, how we're reaching into the past and holding people today accountable for what distant ancestors had done, and how we want to cancel the past.
Oh, wow.
This guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
No, absolutely. Well, I started reading the crucifixion book that I showed you.
Yeah. Oh. Is it good?
Oh, it's really good. I mean, he's just walking you through, like where did crucifixion come from? I mean, the Romans didn't.
I think
they
got
didn't,
that.
They didn't invent it. They just perfected it, from what I've always been told. But he walks you through the history of crucifixion, through the different nations, and they use it. Then he then he walks you after that. He walks you through like, okay, what when they say crucifixion, what does that mean? And so they walk you through like, does that mean like, was it a beam? Was it things like that? So what is the cross made up? So he's just kind of walking you through all that, and then eventually he's going to get to taking you through all probably the physiological issues with the cross, like how torture it was and all this stuff. So it's going to get really good, but it's good so far. He walks you through, like he looks at all the Greek, to say, let's look at what the Greek is saying, because there's views out there. Was it actually a cross symbol and a cross? He walks you through all that. Was it a
scaffolding?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Was it a
Was
post?
it an impalement?
Yes.
Was it just an impalement?
Yeah.
So he's walking you through all that to show you, this is what I believe. I believe the Scripture is clear that it's this, but he's having to walk you through all of that, and he goes into the original language and having to explain all that. It's fascinating. It's a really good book so far. I've enjoyed it.
I think I ordered it.
Yeah, it's
Lord,
good.
I've ordered so much here lately, I can't keep up with. Debbie comes in the door. Well, here's another book. Hope you can put salt and pepper on it and eat it. We're going to starve at some point.
That's
I'm
what
ordering
I get.
books.
That's what I get told.
I
So
know,
that's what I get told. So, oh yeah. Well, do you have any Thanksgiving plans? Y'all do anything on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we're good. No, all the kids can't come. Courtney and Barry, I think they're going to go over to his parents in Mississippi, and both of the boys. Trey has got church and all, and Wills has got garden prisoners.
Oh,
and I'm not talking about his kids. I'm talking about, So Deb and I are going to take off and head up to the mountains, just the two of us.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
we're going to spend a couple of days up there.
That's great.
And
That'd be good.
I'm going to just sit and read.
Oh, that sounds like a great week. To me, I have to. We only go up one day we go up to my parents, and that's all we'll do Thursday. But other than that, man, my whole goal this week is I'm working on a paper, and on the transgenderism from the worldview of Karl Marx. Now, Karl Marx never wrote on it.
Yeah.
But you have to dive into his worldview to understand if he was alive today, would he believe it? Would he agree to it?
I think he would.
Oh,
Do you?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is what I'm seeing and learning is that a lot of this, because you go from Karl Marx to Freud, and then you have you've heard the Frankfurt School. They blended all that, Freud and Marx, and out of that came all this sexual. They basically took Marx's view of economics and the oppression, and looked Freud's sexual repression, and said, all right, this is the key to happiness is sexual liberation.
Yeah.
And that leads you right to what we're living in today.
Well, you can if you take Marx and Freud and do exactly the opposite of what they said, you've got the Bible. There you go. Because they do nothing unless it is in direct opposition to the Word of God.
Absolutely. No, you're right about that. So that's what I'm working on this whole week. So it's due in a couple of weeks. I'm trying to crank it out.
I'm glad it's you and not me.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's all behind me. I'd love to do a master's in history, but my wife, she just said, we're done with education.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Well, I want to get to the sermon today.
Okay.
I went back and listened to it again last night, and man, it was so good. Anything, and we can get to more in the details, but anything you want to add or anything that you felt like you had to, I know there's always things you have to leave out.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you just feel like you just need to say?
I think I hit on pretty much what I wanted to do. I hate going through an entire chapter that fast.
Yeah.
I'd love to, hold it up a little bit. I probably, and I don't know that it would have added to the message, but you get into this thing about Simeon. Why does he keep Simeon?
Yeah.
Simeon will pop up from time to time, and why Simeon? Why did they do it to him? Why did he keep Simeon?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have a definitive answer on that, other than Simeon was probably, there's always a guy, just like I said about Reuben, there's always somebody going to say, I told you so, I told you so.
Yeah.
Simeon was probably one of those that was in there inciting everybody to be upset, to do this, to do that.
That's good.
You know, Simeon's tribe is ultimately swallowed up in Judah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
If you go through the history of Judah, Simeon was at the bottom part, and Judah just kind of and ultimately just absorbed Simeon into Judah.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like these are the black sheep of the family. This is the one that's always the problem child, you know. And it's kind of interesting to me how Simeon got just absorbed into Judah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah, I can see how you're, why his name is mentioned. One of the things, and you brought out this, and I think I wrote the lesson on this for this Joseph Project for the life groups. And one of the things that I saw, and you called it out yesterday in your sermon, but the emotional roller coaster that Joseph seems to be on in this chapter.
Yeah. Oh, don't you know it?
I mean, like you even said, he wanted to tell his brothers.
Yeah.
But he believed the Lord really stopped him.
Yeah.
For salvation.
Yeah. Robert Candish, who wrote in the 1800s, said that Joseph wanted to reveal himself, but he knew that this was God's plan. And so he didn't do it. And that was the only thing that restrained him. I would imagine that he would have jumped down there and grabbed these guys and said, guys, it's me.
Yeah.
And it gets even, that one verse where he understands them.
Yeah.
He knows what they're saying, and he turns around and he weeps. He keeps them, in 43, I think, 43 or over into 44, I'm not sure which chapter it's in, he's going to just have to leave the room because he breaks down and sobs.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that. Yeah. I mean, he had to be just an emotional, like you said, I mean, he had to be harsh to them. He had to treat them as strangers, like that's in the verse. But then also, like I said, you sort of said the wet. He had to turn and weep.
Yeah.
And that just had to be hard for him. And
I can't imagine.
Yeah. And so I really liked how you really, revealed that yesterday. I love the points that you made, just looking at them of how he uses different circumstances, to melt hearts. Yeah. I love how you brought Hosea in there with the blessings in verse 8 and 9. He takes away the blessings. And I love at the end of it how basically, you really point us back to the gospel and the grace that God gives us through the gospel. But one of my favorite parts of Hosea, and I was hoping you're going to get there, but you didn't get there, was verse 14 and 15.
Right.
Where he keeps going on and he says, I'm going to take you into the wilderness. I'm going to allure you.
Yeah.
And that just shows you the beauty of God, the grace of God.
The length that he goes to.
Yeah.
That he's willing to go to. And that's what I was trying to say through all of this. We're thinking about Thanksgiving. Do you ever thank God that he will not leave you alone? Do you ever thank God that he comes and he disturbs your conscience?
Yeah.
You've tried to quail it. You've tried to put it away. You've put it out. But then he'll come back and he will poke at that thing and make you feel those feelings all over. Do you ever thank God for that? Well, we should.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord that he does not leave me in my hardened state. Maybe I'm not hard to everything, but I'm hard to this situation or I'm hard to that situation.
Yeah.
Just like, and I'll use this for an example, and maybe it's a poor example. I've not thought this through, so I probably should keep my mouth shut. Just like those that have come into the country. Part of my heart, I can't be hard. I don't like people breaking the law. I don't like all the stuff that has come with that. But at the same time, I look at them and think these are people that are hurting. These are people that are hungry. These are people that are looking for a better life. And so I'm kind of tender to that.
Yeah.
But there are other things that I may be hard about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good.
And that God comes and he disturbs my hard heart over issues that really I should be more tender toward.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah,
so
that's great. Yeah. I love how, I love that point. I mean, I like just looking at the next point, God uses I love how you said, God uses the same treatment that we have been given, to others to show our hidden guilt. And of course, you walk through and of course, I've always loved how, ever since I've ever been listening to your preach, I always love how you pull insights out that I'm like, man, I never did not see that. And I've read that 1,000 times. But I love how you pulled out that, earlier in, they treated him as a spy.
Yeah.
You pointed back there early on in the story, but also how he now points them to spies. And Dungeon, you pull all that out, and I thought that was really helpful and good to show, that point, to make the point.
Well, it's interesting because all of us have experienced this.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example out of my own life. There was a guy I grew up with in high school, and he just was aggravating. He was just one of those that was always around, just just everything he did. His voice was aggravating. He was always jumping around with anything. I had to punch him one day for something, and I don't remember what it was now. But lo and behold, I graduate from high school, and I'm in college, but I'm home. It's summer, and I'm taking Debbie out to the lake, and the cop car stops me. And lo and behold, who gets out of the cop car?
Yeah.
The guy I punched in high school. And he gets out and he says, oh, look who we got. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, all I could think about was when I punched him in the jaw in high school. But he let me go. He was great. And you're just thinking, I'm getting paid back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm paid back so we've done that. All of that's happened to all of us at some point in time. I think, though, in this, God's using that very thing to drive home the point of their sin.
Yeah.
This is what we did to Joseph. This is what we did to Joseph. And we did this to Joseph, kind of deal. Yeah. And so he's bringing back to them all of these things that they had just covered up, and they're feeling now guilty. They confess it. Mm-hmm. We are guilty, they say. And of course, I don't have my Bible. I've got this thing, the Bible on this thing. And so they come back and they said, let's see. Yeah, verse 21. Then they said to one another, now they're all saying this, truly we are guilty concerning our brother.
Yeah.
But it took that to bring them to that place. Oh, yeah, I remember doing that to him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we remember doing that to him.
No, that's good. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I
now,
like how you point that out.
And I pointed out, a lot of people want to call that karma. That's so much hooey. Eastern mysticism, all of that. Karma is basically revenge.
Yeah.
Boy, what they say about karma, which I would not say. It comes back on you. Well, God doesn't do that. This is not karma. This is the hand of God drawing. It's really His mercy. It's judgment, but His judgment is mercy. Absolutely. It's reaching you to say, get out of this stuff. Yeah. Come back and to me, confess this. Now they're confessing this to one another, and they're confessing it before Joseph.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I think that it is judgment, but it's also the mercy. I think sometimes, if we're not careful, we can sometimes question when we go through these things. But it is the mercy. We always look at it as just God's punishing me, but it's also the mercy.
All this kind of stuff.
I had a girl one time that was in our small group. This was years ago, and she I could just tell you her life was really rough, and went through a lot. And one time she asked me, she said, I don't understand why I had to do what I did for the God to show me His mercy. And I just said, the only thing I can say is because I'm not God, obviously. I was like, but some people God allows to hit rock bottom. Because it's the only way that they will see Him.
In the early service, I baptized Corey. Mm-hmm. And Corey came out of the service. I let him tell his testimony. I wanted him to share his testimony. And he came out of that service and he walked up to me and he said, that was my life. Yeah. What you preached on today was my life. That's God let me go through all this stuff, my conscience, dealing with all this guilt. And He said, that's exactly what just happened to me. Yeah. Yeah. And I told him, I said, well, I'm going to use that in the second service. And he said, well, that's great. That's fine. Do that. And I never thought of it again. But now we're talking about this. So baptizing him yesterday, came to the Lord about a month ago and baptized him yesterday. And he said, that just parallels my life right there.
Wow, that's amazing.
That God had to take me through this stuff to bring me to the point to where I realized I need Him.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, we would all have somewhat of that testimony. There is no doubt. But yeah, you're right. And I do like how, they do admit, and even I was even reading even further And when they come, they come back.
Right.
You got there in the last few verses of your sermon, but then they go back and they get there to where the Father is, and He even says, "This is all coming down on me."
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
Jacob.
don't know if he feels.
That is one of the father Jacob said, "You've bereaved me of my children.
Yeah.
Joseph is no more. Simeon is no more. You would now take Benjamin. All these things are against me." Now, I read that, and all I can think about is hee-haw, when they doom, despair, and agony on me. Deep, dark depression, excessive misery.
Yeah.
That's Jacob right there.
Yeah. I thought that was
Everything is a
fascinating.
negative.
Yep. Yeah. I thought
And
that
I
was
guess at
fascinating.
that moment, he probably, I probably ought to be a little more tender toward him than I am being. But I do know the end of the story.
Yeah.
So he gets his children back.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that's all. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh wow, that's fascinating. And then of course, I love how you did, and then the last point, where you bring it all home really is just God extending grace to us, and when we don't deserve it. These brothers didn't deserve, any of this, but obviously God used Joseph to bring them back, show them grace and mercy, and so. That's just all of our life, right?
That is.
That is all of our lives.
You come down to verse 28, and it says, "And their hearts sank." I didn't look that word up. Let me see if I can find that word. Yeah, the word to go or come out, break, bring forth, bringing, brings, brought forth, carried away. Hebrew is good night. They give you these many words. That word can mean these many things right here, and you have to memorize the vocabulary. Their hearts were breaking, is what basically. And they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done?" Now that's the first time I pointed out. That's the first time these brothers used the name of God right there.
I remember that when you were saying that.
He basically what they're doing now is they're having to deal with the fact God's dealing with us.
Wow.
Reuben said that back when he says, "There's a record."
Yeah.
That's been kept on us. That word drash. Which makes up the word midrash, which is a record of the rabbi's thoughts on the text. He's basically saying God's kept a record on us. We got a record. We got a rap sheet. With God, we got a rap sheet with God, and now they're coming. They realize this is God doing this to us.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, and I love how you point that out. That's the first time that they actually mentioned the name God. So I thought everything was great yesterday. I love how you finished it.
It was an unusual day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but it was it was what we have, 2 baptisms.
Yeah.
And so I love how you started it off with the Thanksgiving, tying into Thanksgiving. But I agree with you. We do often. As soon as you said that, I feel guilty. I'm like, yeah, I do that. I thank God for everything, but do I ever thank Him for putting me through this stuff and showing me the hard stuff to show me His mercy?
Now, I don't like it, and I don't want to go through it.
Oh, yeah. No,
so I'm just saying it publicly. I don't want to go through it.
Yeah.
But I go through it.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, on the other side of it, I look back and I say, God, thank you for uncovering this in me and helping me, for forgiving me and helping me to move beyond this thing.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And a lot of times, I've tried to pray more and more that God would not only forgive me of my sins, but also show me in areas that I don't see. We're blind. We're blind to our sins.
We are, and I pray that same thing.
Yeah.
Lord, I know what my sins are, but there's stuff in me that I'm not even aware of that you are. And forgive me of it and help me see it, and then help me because I can't change it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't. Listen, at this point in life, there's very little in your character that you can change.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand. Totally understand.
But anyway.
Well, it was a great day.
Good. Thank you,
yesterday, and so I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and we'll be back Sunday, right? What are you going to be doing Sunday?
I'm either going to finish out that chapter and then move on into the next chapter, but I'm going to stay with Joseph until he dies, which is the 50th chapter of Genesis, because there's so much in that, and it's to me, it's a perfect picture of the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
And I'll explain that when I get to chapter 50. And then I think after that, and y'all pray for me on that, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to look at the life of Christ. Oh, wow. Now, when you say that, you begin to think, well, what are you going to do? Do I do the parables of Christ? Do I do the miracles of Christ? Do I do the teachings of Christ? Do I do the great I ams of Christ, which is what I'm thinking about.
Oh, wow.
Looking at the great I ams of Christ. And yet I want to start back in the Old Testament, which I will do some on the Sunday before Christmas.
Yeah.
And kind of introduce that series by going back to maybe, because Christ didn't start at Bethlehem.
Correct.
I mean, he's been in eternity past with the Father.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
I don't
great.
want to be called up to some council of Nicaea on that. So, anyway.
Yeah, I'm reading about that, so you don't want to be called up there.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well,
Good.
It's
Y'all
a
have a
great
good
day.
Thanksgiving.
You too. Yeah, have a good Thanksgiving. Thank y'all.
God bless.